And talk about Leafly's 2021 jobs report.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Well, they it says they now support 321,000 full-time American jobs. These are in 10 adult use legal states. But the cool thing about this is, wow, I didn't realize there was all this other crap in there. Hey everybody, what's going on? One person, thank you all for tuning in. We're just gonna do a little rap in a little bit here. Where did this all come from, Bex? Wow.
You tell me.
I'm trying to find out where it says that cannabis, like in the state of Maine, is the number 3 cash crop after potatoes and something else. And in Massachusetts, it is the number 1 cash crop. I mean, it beat cranberries.
It beat cranberries.
It beat cranberries in Massachusetts. That's
in
a
Massachusetts.
huge
No,
deal.
that's whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, we're doing something.
I'm gonna have to reread this more, but
That's a lot of jobs. Over 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
we're in it.
by the numbers here, this thing they're talking about, 321,000 legal cannabis jobs. For aircraft pilots and engineers, there are only 122,400. Dentists, 127,200. Writers and editors, 192,600. Auto mechanics, there's 819,000. But there are more legal cannabis employees than there are electrical engineers, EMTs and paramedics, painters and paper hangers.
Dang.
Yeah.
But we're like up there.
We are up there. All right. What do you say we go ahead and start the show?
I'm with it if you with it.
All right, let's hit it.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Bex, and with me, as always, is the dashing Jeff Rowse. Every Monday, round this time, we will be discussing a different cannabis topic. But before we get to tonight's topic, Jeff and I just want to thank all of our viewers. You guys are why we do this. We want y'all to be more educated about cannabis, and you tune in week after week to learn more.
For real. Thanks to everybody. 277 views on the gram, over 1,000 on the book for our last episode of The Feels. Knowing that there's going to be an audience there makes it so much easier for me to write the show. And it also gives me the motivation to write the show because I know there's going to be an audience there. So, thank you again for tuning in there. So, if we have any first-timers tuning in, welcome to The Feels. And tonight's topic is the history of cannabis.
Well, to find out about the origins of cannabis, we need to set the Wayback Machine to 2020. We know this seems like forever ago, but don't worry, we're actually going much further back in time. It was in 2020 that 2 limestone altars were unearthed in Israel's Negev Desert, believed to date back to 2700 BC.
You got it wrong in practice, you got it wrong live. Scientists discovered trace amounts of THC, CBD, and CBN on the surface of the altars. They also found trace elements of animal dung, which was mixed with the cannabis to help it burn. Seriously, Google dry dung fuel. Now, it's theorized that the temple the altars were found in was built for the specific purpose of taking people higher.
Oddly enough, this was also right around the time in history when Emperor Xin Nang added ma, or cannabis, to the Pinsao, the Chinese medical encyclopedia. He described it as an interesting medicine in that it had female yin and male yang qualities.
Now, prior to the discovery in Israel, the former oldest stash title holder was found in 2019 in a cemetery located in the Pamir Mountains of Western China. In the cemetery, 10 scorched wooden bowls were dug up that contained stones with burn marks on them. These items were carbon dated to 2500 BC, and evidence of CBN was also found.
A quick reminder to our viewers. CBN is a minor cannabinoid that has wonderful anti-inflammatory, anti-insomnia, and antibacterial properties. It's also what THC turns into when it gets real old. So, if you find an old nug in the back of your sock drawer, there's a good chance it's going to put you to sleep. So, consume accordingly.
Seriously, I got old man back this week. It's killing me. All right, next we're going to skip ahead to Dioscorides, a Greek military physician who wrote De Materia Medica, a medical textbook that was translated into multiple languages over the years. In an English translation, there was the following description of cannabis. Quote, "Cannabis is a plant of much use in this life for ye twistings of very strong ropes. It bears leaves like to the ash, of a bad scent, long stalks, a round seed which, being eaten of, much doth quench geniture, but being juiced when it is green, is good for the pains of the ears." End quote. What's geniture? I didn't look that up.
I thought you knew.
Okay, continuing on.
A contemporary of Dioscorides was Pliny the Elder.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Roman naturalist and natural philosopher.
It's also a great beer.
He also wrote the world's first encyclopedia, collection of 30 books entitled Natural Histories. Books 12 through 19 were concerned with botany. Hemp was mentioned throughout, but he also remarked about cannabis that, quote, "a decoction of the root and water could be used to relieve stiffness in the joints, gout, and related conditions."
I did look up decoction. A decoction is the extracted essence of a substance created by heating or boiling, especially a medicinal preparation made from a plant. Substitute grain alcohol for water, and it sounds an awful lot like FECO, or full extract cannabis oil.
That is interesting. We carry FECO here at Feel State.
Yes, we do. Vivid brand, 651 something.
Or sometimes 700 milligrams, depending on the batch.
Depending upon the batch.
Well, moving forward to the beginning of the 3rd century takes us to Watteau, a Chinese physician and surgeon. Back then, surgery was looked down upon as something a lower class doctor might perform. Watteau disagreed. He became the first Chinese surgeon to operate on the abdomen, including performing splenectomies and colostomies.
He was also the first person in recorded history to use anesthesia during surgery. It was called ma fi san and is a combination of the Chinese words ma for cannabis, fi for boiling, and san for medicine in powder form. Watteau was also a pioneer of hydrotherapy and physio or physical therapy.
Wow. Therapeutic indications of cannabis are also mentioned in the Vedas, sacred religious texts of the Indian Hindus written between 1500 and 500 BC. The texts are the oldest to be written in Sanskrit and the oldest scriptures in Hinduism.
Now, according to the Vedas, cannabis was one of the 5 sacred plants, and a guardian angel lived inside its leaves. The Vedas call cannabis a source of happiness, a joy giver, and a liberator that was compassionately given to humans to help attain delight and to lose fear.
Wow. Cannabis is also associated with the Indian god Shiva. It is said that on a particularly hot day, Shiva got into an argument with his family and went for a walk in the fields. He took shade under a leafy plant and fell asleep. When he woke up, he sampled the leaves. He found it fully rejuvenated him, and from then on, he incorporated it into his diet. Eventually, Shiva became known as the Lord of Bong.
And that's bong, this actually really cool drink that they drink during Holi over in India.
No way.
Yeah, it's the festival of colors.
Oh.
Google it, check it out. They drink bong all day
Beautiful.
long. Anyways, the Greeks were also fond of cannabis. The Greek comic poet Hippus refers to the recreational use of cannabis in a list of snacks consumed while drinking at a symposium. Among the snacks listed is a confection made from cannabis seeds and honey.
In the 5th century BC, the writer, geographer, and historian Herodotus wrote that inhaling cannabis smoke was customary among Scythians after the death of a member of their group.
He described the practice thusly, quote, "The Scythians take some of this hemp seed and, creeping under the felt coverings, throw it upon the red-hot stones. Immediately it smokes and gives out such a vapor as no Grecian vapor bath can exceed. The Scyths, delighted, shout for joy."
It is also written that cannabis was used in the times of Jesus. Yep, in the book of Exodus, chapter 30, verses 22 through 23, it says, "Take the following fine spices, 500 shekels of liquid myrrh, half as much of fragrant cinnamon, 250 shekels of fragrant calamus, 500 shekels of cassia, and a hint of olive oil. Make these into a sacred anointing oil." Now, many historians believe the Aramaic word for calamus, cannabosum, was a mistranslation of the Hebrew word for cannabis, cannabos.
Now we're going to set the TARDIS controls to 1753 and Swedish botanist Carl Linnaeus. Linnaeus is most famous for his work in taxonomy, the science of identifying, naming, and classifying organisms into kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. He also invented the binomial naming system, which gives every species two names.
For example, Homo sapiens, or in the case of cannabis, Cannabis sativa. Linnaeus considered the genus Cannabis to be monotypic, or having just a single species, but Linnaeus was only familiar with European hemp, which was widely cultivated at the time.
In 1785, noted evolutionary biologist Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck published a description of a second species of cannabis, which he named Cannabis indica. He was given samples of Indian cannabis that bore distinct differences from Linnaeus's species. Lamarck described Cannabis indica as having poorer fiber quality than Cannabis sativa, but greater utility as an inebriant.
We come to the end of our history lesson in 1924, when the Russian botanist D.E. Janusz-Chusky identified the species Cannabis ruderalis. Janusz-Chusky recognized that local Russian plants did not fit the characteristics of Cannabis sativa or Cannabis indica, but fell within the cannabis taxonomy. He named the short, wild Russian auto-flowering plants Cannabis ruderalis, describing the visible differences in seed shape and growth structure.
Well, that about covers the history of cannabis. I know we missed a ton. So anybody out there, if you know something we missed, please put it up in the comments section on either Facebook or Instagram, and we'll do a little updating for future histories of cannabis. What else can we talk about, Doc?
Well, we do have a new Chemovar in the house, Gator Breath by Flora. It clocks in at 22.18% THC and a touch of CBD at 0.05%.
We also now have access to the COAs from Flora Flower, and they test for terps. I know, mind blown. We thought it was just illicit,
you ain't
improper.
tell me that?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know until I saw the COA the other day. Nick said, "You want to check out the COA on Gator Breath?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And there was a list this long of terpenes.
What?
Mind blown.
Oh my goodness.
I'm psyched.
Wow.
Now, this is also the last month you can make a donation here at Feel State to help TEAM, the Emergency Assistance Ministry. They are helping to feed the citizens of St. Louis County that need it the most. So please come by the dispensary and make a non-perishable food donation.
Well, why don't we check with our producer, Corey, to see if anyone out there has any questions.
What do we got this week, Corey? Okay, so we got a couple of comments we're going to go over. Miranda Christie, love your mustache. Thank you, Miranda. It has been a while since I've waxed my mustache. In fact, I used to compete in beard and mustache competitions back in the state of Maine. Just 2 years in a row. I won the first year, brought a buddy the second year, and my buddy won the second year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What were you doing the second year?
Well,
there has to be something that made you lost. I know you know.
There is. I was trying to trim my mustache, and I got too close up here and really so what's that little dimple right here in our lip called? A philtrum? I think it's called a philtrum. Anyway, I just shaved that.
Jeff,
I know it didn't look that good.
Without consulting me?
I'm sorry, Bex. All right, what else do we got here? Thank you, Miranda. How is everyone? What are we consuming today? Nick Wegman, Mandarin cookies in a spliff. Got to love the Mandarin cookies by Heya.
Oh, by Heya.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's Heya, right? Yeah, Mandarin cookies. It's one of my favorite uplifting chemovars to have with a cup of chai tea or maybe even a cup of coffee in the morning. I can actually start drinking coffee again, Bex. I'm so excited. For years I had to quit. That's awesome. For years I had to quit drinking coffee because the acidity was just wrecking my stomach. So I quit for 3 years. And then I said, let's try a little sip, see what happens. And it worked, and I was able to have a full cup of coffee.
Oh, love that.
I know. I love coffee.
That for you.
All right. What other questions do we have there?
All right. A joint.
This is what she's smoking on, Amanda Rao.
Oh, Amanda Rao, a joint filled with sour garlic cookies tonight. Sounds gross. Tastes and feels amazing. LOL.
Sour garlic cookies, that is terrapin.
Yes.
And Terrapin is a Colorado company, I do believe. Corey can back me up on that.
They came from Colorado, and now they have ventured on to Missouri.
So now, because they partnered with the Missouri grower, we now have Terrapin's genetics in the state of Missouri.
Yes, because once upon a time, I visited Terrapin in Boulder. Once upon a time in my past life, and their stuff was great. Princess Leia was in the house, and
mac and cheese.
Grapefruit Durban.
Twerpin Station. I still have a little bit of that left. The mac and cheese is long gone, though. I love
mac and cheese. I think I smoked the keef off that. It was good. It was good.
All right, what else do we have? All right, we're going to say hi to Humphrey 2x4 on Instagram. Dude, what's going on, Humphrey? Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated.
So much.
You know what we've never said?
What?
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, isn't that what people are supposed to say to get people to get more attention on social media? Smash that like button. Do we have a like button they can smash?
Smash that like button, Jeff. I don't think anyone says that. Who says that?
I don't know. All right, indica sativa. Is it a myth? Well, you heard us talk a little bit about how they got their names. Linnaeus called it a sativa, and Lamarck called it an indica, but he called it an indica because it came from India. So that's really where it got its name, and short and squat.
Right.
And the sativa's tall. But I'm thinking the question is it really a myth?
Like, as if it makes you feel in the couch, indica, or if sativa makes you feel uplifted, is what I'm thinking. And that is definitely a myth that Feel State loves to bust. We do not, unless you're a farmer or a cultivator, do we imagine you to be interested in the terms cannabis sativa or cannabis indica. Like, it refers to the name of the plant that Linnaeus and Lamarck discovered. So in case you were venturing more towards the experience those plants have, Feel State, we got you covered. We can direct you to those relaxed or sedated effects you may assume to be with indica, and we will direct you to those chemovars that are uplifting, euphoric, all those kind of good things.
Yeah, we don't like saying indica and sativa around here to try and describe chemovars. It's inaccurate because it doesn't take into account any of the other
chemicals. And most of it is a hybrid anyway, the babies between the indica and the sativa cannabis. So, I mean...
All right, we're going to say hi to Pierced Cannabis on Instagram. Reject the binary, she said. That's right. There is way more than A and B. There's A and B and everything in between all the way to Z. I can't wait until they start figuring out about flavonoids.
Right?
In fact, it was last week or 2 weeks ago, the scientists, like they're the only ones out there, scientists discovered that the skunky scent of cannabis is actually called by sulfurous compounds found within cannabis.
No.
Now, are those terpenes or is it actually sulfur in there? I don't know, but the point is the science continues to grow every single day. So we can't lock ourselves into terms like indica, sativa, and hybrid. And like Doc Beck said, everything's a hybrid anyways, unless you want to go to the Afghan mountains and get some Kush, or go down to South Africa and get some Durban poison, you're not going to find any landrace strains around.
Nah.
All right, so cannabis ratios. Okay, we've got a couple of ratioed products here at Feel State.
Sure
First
do.
thing that comes to mind is the ratio pens by Proper.
It's literally called ratio.
Obviously, that's so you can get an exact dose every single time. I think it's 2 seconds before it shuts off. So it's a disposable vape pen that is rechargeable because you're going to get that exact ratio every single time.
And what even is a ratio, maybe, is what we can
that's you're
describe
going to
to people.
have some percentage of CBD and some percentage of THC. In the case of ratios, you've got 20-1 THC dominant, CBD dominant, 5-1, 1-1.
Right. And I love explaining to patients how CBD, kind of combats that psychoactivity effect of THC. So you're not as high, you're brought down into a more balanced, mellow state, I guess you could say.
A balanced feel state.
A balanced feel state. Look at what you did there, Jeff. Wow. We
Do
don't
we have
pay him
any-
enough.
No, we don't.
But
All
no,
right.
really, those two, when combined together, it's just a party of phenomena, of healing phenomena, of what else? Of antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic.
Basically, if you got something wrong with you, there's something in cannabis that's probably going to help you make it feel a little bit better.
Yeah, because the two of them are together, CBD and THC. So,
And that's actually called the ensemble or the entourage effect.
yes.
Now, a doctor out there named Dr. Ethan Russo coined the term the entourage effect. And what he was trying to say is that it's more than just a high THC percentage. It's a collection of chemicals working together to produce a response. But even that term entourage implies there's a movie star with his surrounding cast members. So in that sense, you can kind of still continue to think of THC as being the star. That's why I prefer ensemble. It's like Oceans 11 through 13. It's everybody working together.
Yes, it's a team effort. It takes a village. It really does. And let's see. Do we have any more viewers?
How many
guys.
people are still watching, Corey? We got 5 still watching and 3 over there. Okay, so we have to be able to keep talking about something.
Well, we've learned so much. I mean, it wasn't a snooze fest through the history of cannabis. Do you know any more about the history of cannabis?
Well, I know there's, we didn't get into Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who
I
first...
remember that from one episode. Israel?
Yep, he was an Israeli scientist that, he was a Belgian scientist that discovered or synthesized CBD and THC in Israel. But CBD was first discovered technically in 1899, I want to say.
Okay.
They found it way back when, but they weren't exactly sure what they had. They just knew it existed.
Wow.
But that's how long they've had science about cannabis, and no one's... I still can't believe in medical school they didn't teach you anything about it.
It was crazy, Jeff. Like, I would be in class and we would be, going over the book, and it would just simply be, okay, we're going to skip this chapter. It would be the endocannabinoid system, or...
So that chapter was actually in your medical textbook, and they said skip
we had
it.
to know what it was. Like, we're not ignorant. Like, it's there. We knew it was a thing. It was in my physiology course, I remember. Forget the professor's name, but I wouldn't call her out anyway, but she told us, she mentioned it. She gave us a whole teaching about it. However, she said, don't worry about it. It won't be on the exam. It won't be quizzed upon.
But it should have been.
It should have been. It was illegal, though. Like...
Yeah, well, so is... Never mind, I'm not going to go down that road.
I know, that's another
I was about to go down a pharmaceutical rabbit hole. All right. How should a medical student go about learning about cannabis? We're going to answer that in a second.
Oh, I get
Pauline
that question
Aggie
a lot.
Caffrey Corzine. Wow, that's some handle you got there, Pauline. I love the info. Thanks. You are more than welcome. We love talking about cannabis here. So any questions you got, hit us up. My email is actually Jeff Rowse, JEFFROWSE @myfeelstate.com. Dr. Beck's is...
BEKKAHJOHNSON at myfeelstate.com.
If you have any questions about anything cannabis related we haven't answered for you, let us know. We'll do the research and we'll get back to you about it.
For sure.
Now, how should a medical student go about learning about cannabis? I'm going to say you're going to want to go to some kind of an institute of higher learning that actually has some kind of a cannabis course. Like myself, I was a graduate of the Cannabis Science and Operations program at St. Louis University. Now, while we didn't...
pilot student, not just a graduate.
As long as we pull my chain, I finished 7th in my class.
Okay.
Out of 277 some students.
Okay.
So, there we go.
I see you.
All right.
See you.
Now, doing that helped me out an awful lot in getting this job here, helping to increase my knowledge, but we didn't really... For a medical student level of knowledge, they're going to need to have something like a Harvard or a Yale or SLU really say, okay, we're going to make this a 4 or an 8-year credited college program.
It's worth it. Like, we're still expounding upon our knowledge as time goes on. Like, it needs its own 4-year school.
It needs its own university.
It
really does.
Really
we need
does.
a cannabis, and I'm talking more than Oaksterdam out in California where they teach you how to grow.
No.
That's not a university per se. We need something like a SLU where all they focus on is cannabis.
I get that. It could have cannabis economics and cannabis, I don't know,
Extraction.
literature and cannabis, yeah.
That actually takes me to what our topic of discussion is going to be next Monday.
Oh.
We're taking the show on the road, folks. We're not going to be here in the lovely conference room. We are going to be having an interview with the gentlemen from Curador. That's right, Corey Sanson and Brian Gilmer, the co-founders of Curador. Who is Curador, you might ask? Well, under their product umbrella, they have head change concentrates, safe bet pre-rolled products, and they make the juice for aeropods. So we are going to have a wonderful conversation with Corey and Brian outside of the dispensary.
Woo!
I'm not going to say where because we don't know where. No, I'm kidding. We know where, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
Yay.
But you can definitely tune in next 5:30 around this time. Till then, I'm Jeff. This is the lovely Dr. Bex. This has been The Feels. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Another one.
Yes. Nailed it. We did it.
And we stretched that out to